I'm Laurie Cardoza-Moore, and this is Focus on Israel. There is darkness in the world. We are witnessing Bible prophecy becoming reality. Do we just stand by and watch? Or is God calling us to action? By returning to God's original wisdom proclaimed to the Jewish people thousands of years ago, we can learn how to play our part in this unfolding drama. Join me today for a life-altering journey as we learn the finer points of ancient Jewish wisdom from Rabbi Shalom Denbo. Hello, I'm Laurie Cardoza-Moore, founder of Proclaiming Justice to the Nations, a nonprofit organization dedicated to educating and sharing the message of Christian biblical responsibility to the people and land of Israel in the face of a growing global anti-Semitism. Proclaiming Justice to the Nations was birthed to stop the silence, to wake up Christians and people of conscience to the realities of a world bent on destroying Israel and the Jewish people. On our program today, we're truly blessed to hear from Rabbi Shalom Denbo about his recent book titled 7 Traits: How to Change Your World. It focuses on timeless Jewish wisdom, which he considers are the keys to unlocking our full potential as human beings. While a young man, Rabbi Denbo traveled to Israel, where he learned from his teacher, Rabbi Weinberg, that each one of us has the power to transform ourselves in order to change the world into what we dream it could be. And although this timeless wisdom was first taught to our Jewish brethren, we can use it to attain more clarity, dispel inner doubts, and pursue a vision of living up to the infinite potential that God has planned for us. But Rabbi Denbo says that we must do our part, and he explains just how to do that.
My name is Shalom Denbo, and I'm a rabbi here in Southern California, Los Angeles. I originally grew up in New Jersey, and I grew up as a non-observant Jew. I was not religious, but I had a very strong Jewish identity. And it wasn't until my very late teens, early 20s that I started to explore my Jewish identity from a religious perspective. And I ended up traveling to Israel and meeting a rabbi, and his name was Rabbi Weinberg, who changed my life and embarked me on this mission to share Jewish wisdom with as many people as I can. One of the things that he taught me was that every human being desires to be great. It's an innate desire that we all know that we have infinite potential. We all have a desire to know that we matter and that we're making a difference in the world, and that our life is not insignificant. And every single one of us knows that we're not living up to that potential. But we aspire to it, and we have to figure out how can we capture that. Ultimately, we all want to change the world. And he shared with me the tools necessary for us to change the world. And as he was getting older and we were told that he was dying, I wanted to hold on to the wisdom he shared with me. So I wrote this book called The 7 Traits. And these 7 traits are really the tools to help us figure out what it is we want to do in the world and how to go about doing that. Do you see, we all know, as I mentioned earlier, we know we're not living up to our potential. We know that we're living lives that are mundane. And yet we know that it could be so much more. And I spoke about in the book because I love movies. It's you know, when I was really young, I just wanted to be famous. That's really what I wanted. And I thought the way to be famous was to become a movie star. And so I grew up just loving movies. When we watch on the screen a person that in the beginning of the story, that's me, Because it's always some person, it's always some character who's in a situation that it's not going right, there's something wrong, his boss is upset at him, her husband's not treating her right, the world's not right. And then all of a sudden, they put on the costume, they put on the mask, and they become something so much more. And we go, that's it. And that's why I read somewhere that the biggest grossing comic book is not Superman, it's Batman. And I wondered at first, why? Superman, to fly, to stop a bullet. No, you see, because Superman comes from some far planet, Krypton. I don't come from Krypton, I come from Cherry Hill, New Jersey. But Batman's a human being. He doesn't have any special powers. Okay, he's a billionaire, because that's what we all want to be, but he's Bruce Wayne. He's an orphan. Nobody gets him. He's me. And he puts on a mask, and he becomes someone who changes the world. And that's what I want. And you see, Jewish children, we grow up with these stories. So many Jews, they know that we're superheroes. Every one of us is a superhero, but they lost the idea that the reason we're a superhero is because we have a spark of the infinite. We have the spark of the Almighty in us. What I spoke about in the book, but change your world. You can build this dream, and if you dream it, you can make it become true. That was created by the Jews that built Hollywood, because it was this idea that an outsider saw the world in a way that was different, in a way that was much more than it is, but he saw the way it could be. And that's the same thing with comic books. The comic books were all writers that saw the world in a way that was limited. And yet the world could be so much more, if only we could figure out how. And that's something that is taught. That's part of the whole Judeo-Christian concept, that we're here to change the world. The concept of tikkun olam, we're told. This concept that the world's created imperfect, and we're here to perfect it. And the way we fix it is by embracing responsibility. You know, that's the second of the 7 traits, is to know that I'm here to take responsibility for the world. I have to change the world. We say in Hebrew, Bishvili nivra ha'olam. The world was created for me. Not for me to indulge, but for me to own it and change it. That's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. This beautiful factory where everything is for you. Whatever you see, you can eat. But he brings in 5 children. You notice all 4 of the 5 come in with a bad character trait. There's ego, there's indulgence, there's selfishness, there's all these traits. And they all end up, there's a brilliant line in the movie. Gene Wilder character, Charlie, is upset about the children. And Willy Wonka says to Charlie, don't worry, they will all leave exactly the way they came in. Hopefully a little wiser. That's us. We go through life and we either stay the same or we become wiser. Charlie's the only one who says, this isn't about me. And he goes and he gives the gobstopper back. And as soon as he does that, he says, Mr. Wonka, I understand. And Willy Wonka says, Charlie, it's yours. In the book, I mentioned that Rabbi Weinberg said, give me 10 men, I'll change the world. I remember the first time I heard those words. And I remember thinking to myself, looking around, like from Top Gun, Tom Cruise's character, looking around. And his partner said to him, what are you doing? He's like, I'm wondering. What are you wondering? Who's number 1? And I remember vividly looking around, not thinking who's number 1, thinking who's going to be the 10? Because I want to be one of those 10. Change the world? Who doesn't want to be one of the 10 that would change the world? Could you imagine what it must have been like to be one of those soldiers holding up that flag at Iwo Jima? That iconic image? To know that that was you? To know that you were one of the soldiers that survived D-Day? A day that changed the world for the good. We don't talk about these days anymore, because nowadays, no, you're not supposed to stand up and fight evil. You're not allowed to fight evil. To know that you were part of a group that changed the world is powerful. I wanted to be one of those 10. The reason that he said it is because my rabbi, Rabbi Weinberg, understood that the most powerful force in the universe is unity. It is unstoppable. The 7th trait is unity that comes from humility. We can only have unity if we're humble. If we get rid of this is about me, and it's about what's the goal. The goal is to change the world. The goal is to find a cure for cancer. The goal is something of substance, and we're here to find the answer to that. And if you've got an idea, I want to hear it. I don't care that my name's on the board. I want to know it. And if we had that unity, he understood, we'd be unstoppable. The irony is that while you mentioned there's such disunity, there's such discord within the Jewish community, within the Judeo-Christian, the Jewish and the Christian community, within America, that discord is what's destroying us. And the irony is that as much as we refuse to work with each other, wait, what are they doing? And if we see that they're doing something that works, hey, we have to do that. So let's sit down and figure out how to work together. You figure out how to work together, we'll fly. The greatest movie scene that I've ever seen that teaches this is the story Miracle. The movie Miracle, about the U.S. Olympic hockey team in the 1980 Olympics, where the U.S. hockey team was going up against the juggernaut, the Soviet Union, the undefeated team. And they thought there's no way we could win. But we will not be humiliated. The U.S. Olympic Hockey Committee said we cannot be humiliated by the Soviet Union. We can't beat them, but we will not be humiliated. This was at the peak of the Cold War. So Herb Brooks put together this team that, as everyone knows, wins the gold medal. And there's this poignant scene in the movie Miracle with Kurt Russell playing Herb Brooks, the coach, where they had just played their first exhibition game and they won with ease. But Herb noticed that they were all being hot dogs. They were all showing off. And he stopped them, thinking they're going to go celebrate. And he says, you're not going anywhere. And he made them stay on the ice after playing 3 periods of Olympic-level hockey. They're exhausted, doing exercises, skating, screaming at them. And screaming at them and saying, you need to understand, you don't have enough talent to win. The only way you're going to win is if you understand that the name on the front of the jersey is a heck of a lot more important than the name on the back. Get that through your head. And it wasn't till the captain finally says who he is. And Herb Brooks says, who do you play for? And he doesn't say his college, which is what all the other students had said when he asked him. He said, I play for the United States. This isn't about me. Look at me, I made the Olympics. This is about something so much bigger. It's a powerful scene. If we would get rid of the ego, if we would realize this is something much bigger, tell me, how can I become greater?
I want to take you to Israel in pictures and film. I want you to see how God's sovereign hand can be seen before our eyes right here in this land. That's why PJTN is offering a special anniversary package that includes a captivating new book and award-winning DVD. Israel Rising is a unique visual story of Israel's miraculous journey from unforgiving desert to thriving nation. Thousands of years ago, the prophet Ezekiel foretold a future time in which the arid land of Israel would come alive for its people. Now this breathtaking book documents the fulfillment of this vision, as rarely seen photographs from the 1880s to the 1940s are juxtaposed with recent photos of the same locations. This book will inspire and captivate you as it illuminates Israel's foretold awakening in a new and unforgettable way. In addition, you'll receive the award-winning documentary, Israel Indivisible, The Case for the Ancient Homeland. This inspiring film examines the many political twists and turns that make Israel the world's most controversial nation. From Abraham and the Promise to the issues facing the Jewish state today, the film examines the historical, archaeological, legal, and biblical foundations for the modern state of Israel. This is a limited time offer for these two remarkable resources for just a one-time gift of $70 today. Your generous donation will help ensure that PJTN stays on the front lines and in the headlines of all the important issues facing Israel and our Jewish brethren. So please go to PJTN.org today. From studying history, it's very clear that what starts with the Jews never ends only with the Jews. We must strongly stand against any anti-Semitic trends, for if not stopped, they'll cause harm to all of us, and we'll witness the downfall of our Judeo-Christian Western culture. Today, many people say there's no longer a need for a Jewish state, that Jews around the world no longer need a place of refuge. But anyone who has heard recent statistics about the worldwide rise in anti-Semitism would never make such a claim. The reality is that neo-Nazi groups and Nazi sympathizers are increasing around the world. Surveys show that over 1 billion people in the world harbor anti-Semitic attitudes. Close to 50% believe that Jews have too much power in the business world, and 2/3 of the world's population has never heard of the Holocaust or believe the historic accounts of it are inaccurate. Don't let yourself be manipulated by evil people with a wicked agenda. When the self-serving villains are in control, good people from all religions suffer. Muslims, Christians, and all people of conscience should stand proudly and show respect for a country that gives so much to the world in so many ways. Do your part, do your research, and do what you can to make a difference. Because what happens in Israel does affect us all. This is not just a Jewish or just an Israeli problem. This is a problem for all humanity, for each and every one of us who believe in freedom and human rights. Learn more about what you can do at pjtn.org. Rabbi Denbo teaches that God instills within us the desire to achieve great things, and that we can only accomplish this through exercising our personal responsibility. It has been said that it's not what God does for us that transforms us. It is what we do for God that helps us grow and achieve greatness. We certainly need God's blessings, but He has also given us minds in order to make the choice to be His partners in achieving Tikkun Olam, the Jewish desire for changing the world for the better. The Bible gives us numerous examples of how righteous people assumed personal responsibility in order to do God's holy work and change the world. Next, Rabbi Denbo tells how two more traits, unity and clarity, help us mold and shape our personal potential for greatness. He gives examples from our country's history, our business leaders, and from today's popular movies. Inspiration is all around us, if we just look for it.
Rabbi Weinberg had a lot of sayings that I try to embrace and remind myself of them. And one of his most powerful sayings was the following: if you don't know yourself, you don't know anything. The first of the 7 traits is clarity. Clarity means 5-finger clarity. To know something like you know you've got 5 fingers on your hand. If I ask any 20 people, how old are you? They'll tell me how old they are. If I ask those same 20 people, tell me what are the 3 most important lessons you've learned about life? It's not clear. Clarity is knowing something like that. You could learn all the books you want about all different kinds of philosophies, but if you don't know who you are, if you don't know what makes you tick, then then none of that's going to have an impact on you, because you won't know how to implement it. What desires do you have? What impulses do you reach out and grab? If you don't understand how you work, then you can't implement any wisdom. But even more important, if you don't know who you are, your identity, then you will spend a lifetime trying on different identities because you don't know your own. So if you ask somebody, what's the purpose of life? Why are we here? What's life about? What do you want to do with your life? You have to have clarity. Yeah, and you have to know it like that. If we are not taught who we are, then we will spend a lifetime running away from who we are. If we are not taught that America is a gift to the world, America has taught the world one thing: freedom is something worth dying for. Freedom is worth living for. Freedom is worth fighting for. And that's why Judaism actually says that you should ask yourself, what am I willing to die for? Because once I figure out what I'm willing to die for, now I know what I'm really supposed to be living for. When I speak, I did speak about the founding fathers and the vision that they had to build this country that I believe is the greatest country. And I think that the Jewish people have a lot of gratitude that we need to have for this country, for what they've done for not only Israel, but also just for the Jewish people. And I believe that America is as great as it is because of the vision of our founding fathers. A vision of a country that was built on meaning, built on responsibility of the individual, but a responsibility of the individual within the context of a unified vision that was built on Judeo-Christian values. And those two things working hand in hand is what makes our country great. And that's freedom. Do you see, freedom, this has nothing to do with the 7 traits again, but freedom is not the ability to do whatever I want. I can't do whatever I want. I can't just walk into a store and take something. Freedom is the ability to do what matters. That's real freedom. And something can only matter if it is built within the framework of values. Without a framework, there is no freedom. And the founding fathers had that vision. Now, in this day that we're living, in the society that we're living in, people aren't being taught about our history. People aren't being taught about who we are, not only as Judeo-Christians, but people aren't even being taught what it means to be American. Students don't even know who Nathan Hale is. Nathan Hale was an American spy in the Revolutionary War at a time where they had that clarity. The first of the 7 traits is clarity. No, what is life about? Have a vision of what do I want to accomplish? They had that back then. And Nathan Hale was caught as a spy by the British, and just before he was executed was said, final words. The old idea, the old notion of, do you have any final words? And he said, I have one regret, that I have one life to give for my country. The idea of giving your life for your country? People would laugh at that today. But we have to understand, we can't judge a person in those times by our times. The Bible says that Noah was a righteous man in his generation. We have to judge ourselves by the time we live in. And we have to be able to stand up now and look at the world that we live in now and say, am I being righteous today? Judaism and Christianity have taught the world one thing, that there's an Almighty that created the world, one God that created the world, and that loves us and wants us to be great, and created a world for our benefit, and just wants to give. And we have to live up to that. And if we run from that, then we will spend a lifetime in misery, trying on all different things. And that's what I try to share with people in the 7 traits. And they are as follows. Number 1, clarity. We have to have a vision, a clear understanding of what are my goals? What do I want to accomplish? Number 2 is responsibility, and understanding that the buck stops here. No one's going to live my life for me. Number 3 is fear, a realization that life matters and my choices make a difference. The first step in becoming a mature adult is knowing that my choices are real. Number 4 is optimism. a belief and confidence in myself, but ultimately knowing that ultimately whatever was meant to be is what happens. And number 5 is joy. To be filled with energy and a thirst for life. Happy people make the world better. Number 6 is patience to persevere. Quitting is not an option, period. And number 7, the greatest of them all, unity that comes from humility. The greatest obstacle we have is ourselves. If we would just get rid of the ego, we could truly be great and change the world. Those are the 7 traits. These 7 traits are specifically about how do I change my world. Whether I want to be altruistic and change the world on a global scale, which is what the Bible tells us we're supposed to do. We're supposed to take responsibility for the whole world. Or even if I just want to take responsibility for my own little microcosm, my family, my society, my community. And that's what I try to share with people in the 7 traits.
Well, that's our program for today. And I want you to know we appreciate your support. The time to take a stand is now. Be a leader in your community and in your church. One person can make a difference. Get involved with and support pro-Israel organizations such as PJTN. Call your senators, congressmen. Let your elected leaders hear from you. Visit our website to learn more. Sign up to receive free action alerts and order our films to share with family and friends. Please encourage everyone you know to tune in and become informed. If you're interested in starting a local PJTN chapter to combat anti-Semitism in your community, please contact us at info@pjtn.org. God bless you, and thank you for all you do on behalf of our Jewish brethren and all Israel. We'll see you next time on Focus on Israel.
To support this program, send your tax-deductible gift to Proclaiming Justice to the Nations, P.O. Box 682711, Franklin, Tennessee 37068. You can also support PJTN online. Visit pjtn.org or call 1-877-873-9020.
Anti-Semitism has reached epic proportions, and Israel is now surrounded by nations who seek its destruction. For Israel to lose just one battle would mean losing everything. As Christians, it is our biblical responsibility to stand with our Jewish brethren and Israel. PJTN needs your help to reach more Christians with this urgent message. Please visit our website to become a member today and order our award-winning documentaries. You must decide that you won't be silent. Sign up now at pjtn.org. God bless you and thank you for your support and prayers.